we're going to go deep into a subject called the theology of the body. Now, none of this will make sense, or at least not all of it will make sense, unless right now you pause, you read the readings down below. I highly recommend that you read those yourself first, as I'm not going to go over them at length. But if you read those and then re-engage with this video, I promise you it'll make way more sense. Now, what is the theology of the body? It's an extensive amount of work done by Pope John Paul II, and I'm not going to go too into his work here, but the readings that the church gives us today absolutely shed light onto this subject. So let's start first with the first reading. There's one thing in particular that sort of highlights, I think, our exploration for today, which is, this is the people of Israel saying, "We will do everything that the Lord has told us." This is right when they decide to engage with the Lord and the Lord makes a covenant with them. And then there's blood. They sprinkle blood on the people, etc., etc. It's a very gruesome event. But I want to hone in on this. We will do everything that the Lord has told us. That was the first thing they said. They said, yep, everything he said, I will do. Now, we'll later see that that doesn't work. And to bring this into a little bit more of a practical, scene for you, if we think about how we move through life, whether it's the spiritual realm or the material realm, generally speaking, I believe all human beings act like that. We'll do everything that the Lord has told us. Now, if you're not religious, or if you're not following any sort of spiritual guidelines or anything, we all fundamentally have that within us where, okay, I'm going to do what's right in my own eyes, or I'm going to follow best practices, or I'm introspective about what the purpose of life is, or I'm just going to follow what my folks told me to do, whatever. But we're all fundamentally operating from that operating system. Now, as we move through those planes, I believe the first way that we operate through life in that prompt, we will do everything that the Lord has told us, is first environment. We will most likely engage with our environment, how we were raised. You know, if our parents told us to do this and this, we would do this and this, or if they told us not to, we will rebel, etc., etc. I think probably 90% of people operate on this plane. Is their fundamental operating system is, we will do everything that the environment has told us, or we will do everything that I was raised to believe. Something like this, okay? So this is more of a surface level thing. As you move down into, I think, a deeper depth, is something like, okay, instead of we will do everything that the Lord has told us, right? We start at, we'll do everything that the environment has told us. We'll do everything that my experience has told us. The next move, I think, is I'm going to do everything that my subjective reality tells me to do. So as we move through life, we develop some sort of subjective reality, things that sound true to us, things that are work, things that are pragmatic, something like this. And some people stop there. They go, okay, I can move from environment to subjective reality, and I'm creating my own little world, okay? I would argue that there's a few more depths here, okay? Follow me. The next move, I think, would be an experience in life, or first principles. So now you've moved from subjective reality, creating your own way of the world, to I have some deep wisdom and experience here, and first principles, things that have worked, things that have not worked. And I'm going to have my operating system be that, okay? I know what I know. My experience tells me this. This is more than just something that I've made up. I've fundamentally seen things that have worked, okay? And I'm going to operate from that operating system, okay? Let's move a step further, if you're following, okay? Very rarely, in my opinion, do we get here, which is I operate from not environment, not subjective reality, not experience or first principles, not anything like this, but from an objective moral good. Okay, so we've moved from, I guess, things that have been imposed on us to developing some sort of pragmatic way of living. But notice what I'm saying. I'm saying objective moral good. So we've moved from subjective to objective, okay? There's something fixed, universally fixed, that you're grounding yourself to. Regardless of whether or not you exist, you are submitting yourself to that objective truth, okay? I guess we can call it that, truth. And then notice, moral good. Now we're having a spin on this. Not something that just works, not something that's just true, but something that's inherently good, something beautiful, something that transcends the science world, right? The scientism, but enters into I want to be living a life that imposes objective morality through my actions, okay? Next, and probably last in terms of this depth here, I think what these texts are telling us is the last one, the deepest realm that we can live into is that of the conscience, okay? This is, as my patron saint John Henry Newman calls it, the aboriginal vicar of Christ in the human soul. That is, every single human being on the planet, past, present, or future, has the law of God written onto their hearts. Not only is that just moral, objective good, but that is the person of Christ living in every single human being, and that is our conscience. Okay. I'll say this. I don't think that the majority of people listen to that aboriginal vicar of Christ in the soul. I don't think we do that. Elsewhere in Scripture, it tells us that the reason why we don't is because we suppress that in our unrighteousness, okay? I'm getting a little theological here, but follow me here. Wake up, okay? I think at least know that you are on one of those planes. Maybe you operate from just experience or pragmatics or first principles or subjective reality or objective moral good. But if we all, as the scriptures say, all have a conscience within us that we can listen to, then we are all connected to a deeper realm, one that transcends frameworks, that transcends first principles, that transcends experience, that transcends anything, okay? Now, here's a big point that I'll make that I'm getting from the text. As you move deeper and deeper away from the material world into the immaterial world, more sacrifice is required, okay? What do I mean by this? Let's say you operate on a material world. You're just operating from your environment. There's no real depth there. You know, if you want to move to the next level, the deeper level of going from, just operating from your environment and your experience there, but into some sort of subjective morality, you're going to have to leave something at the door, which is what my parents told me is true. I don't know about that anymore. What I was told in church, I don't know about that anymore. I was raised sort of in a secular environment, and I'm starting to see that there's some sort of objective good, at least that works for me. So it's a subjective reality. I'm going to need to leave behind this at the door. What I mean by this is, again, as you move through that deeper and deeper and deeper, straight to the conscience, sacrifice is required. You're going to have to leave something at the door. And I think that as you move deeper and deeper into that, you'll experience two kinds of sacrifices. One is the external sacrifice, okay? Okay, I'm just going to ditch the frameworks that I grew up with, okay? That's one move, right? The other might be, well, as I'm seeing more and more that I want my life to look a certain way, I'm going to move, or I'm going to take a new job, or something like this. If you really want something, as you go deeper and deeper, you will make external sacrifices in order to get it, okay? As you go deeper, however, it will move from external sacrifices to internal sacrifices, okay? You'll need to change who you are. You'll need to probably, I'll say it this way, become a different person. I think a more holistic way of saying this is to embrace your conscience, listen to it, and tune your life, your soul, your being, everything to it. I don't think many people get there. But this text is saying that our conscience is the thing we need to be following. Okay? Now, as you've gone through that, I'll bring your attention to the first reading again, okay? They say something twice. They say, we will do everything that the Lord has told us to do. That is, we're just going to go straight for objective moral good. God has told us what to do. We're just going to orient ourselves to it. Boom. That's what we're going to do. We'll sacrifice everything in order to follow that. They make a second claim, which is, all that the Lord has said, we will heed to do, okay? They essentially say the same thing twice. They hear the word of the Lord, they'll say, sure, I'll do it. They hear it again, yep, we'll do it, okay? However, when they keep making that claim and going deeper and deeper and deeper, notice in the first reading, there's sacrifice. They kill animals, okay? They kill them, and they say, okay, let's take half the blood, put it on the altar, etc., right? Let's take the other half and sprinkle it on the people, okay? This is what's crazy. He took the blood, it says this in the reading, he took the blood and sprinkled it on the people, okay? What this is essentially saying is, okay, fine, you want this? You want to follow God? You want to go deeper? You want to go straight to your conscience? You want to remove how you thought life was and go deeper and deeper and deeper? You hear the truth? You orient your entire life to it? Fine. Sacrifice needs to be made. Yes, on the material world, you move, right? You change who you are. No, this is a deeper sacrifice. This is a moral one. This is killing of animals and sprinkling blood. Okay, why? Because in order to orient our entire lives to not only some sort of objective moral good, let alone God, right? But to listen to the conscience that the Lord gave us, it's going to require more sacrifice than you're willing to put up with. And that's what this text is saying. They will kill animals to appease God, sprinkle it on the people, and say, fine, if you want this, here, this is how we're going to do it. It's a reminder to say, if you want to go deeper, sacrifices, it needs to be made. Okay? And it's not just a sacrifice external from the people, but it's sprinkled on you. What an image. Now, we've all experienced this. We've experienced the blood shed as we move through life, whether it's selfish or not selfish. We know what it's like to sacrifice as we want to go deeper and deeper and deeper to the things that are true to us, right? And then moreover, the things that we believe to be true that God's telling us to do, right? It requires sacrifice. Okay? However, I want us to take note on something. They said twice, we'll do whatever you want, God. And then God says this. He says, this is the covenant that the Lord has made with you. Wait a second. I thought the people were saying, whatever you say, we'll do. And they cut up animals and sprinkle it on the people. Yet God says, I'm making a covenant with you. There's nothing you can do to orient yourself to me. I need to move towards you. What does this mean? Well, it means no matter how many times you say you will do better or say whatever, yes, I'll do whatever the Lord wants. Yes, I'm willing to sacrifice it all. No matter how many times you do that or try to figure it out on your own, you will never live up to your end on the bargain. Okay? This is God saying, yes, I hear you. I know that you're going to orient your entire life towards me, but I'm going to cut up the animals and I'm going to sprinkle it on you. No matter what you say, this is a covenant I'm making because I know you're not going to live up to this. Okay? Okay, fast forward. Fast forward to the time of Jesus, okay? In our second reading, it says this. Jesus is the ultimate sacrifice. He cleanses our conscience from dead works. And it moves to a space of, back then we had to kill animals and sprinkle blood on you. And that was going to cleanse your flesh. But there's something deeper you need to be cleansed from, which is your conscience, okay? As you move deeper and deeper and deeper into your conscience, that voice, that Aboriginal vicar of Christ in your soul, you won't be able to handle the objective truth telling you, this is what you should do, this is what you should not do. Moreover, your sin will eat you alive. You'll be exposed for who you really are. and you'll want to suppress that. You'll want to move to a more fragile plane, something like just environment or subjective reality. But if you listen to your conscience, you'll be scared to death. You'll be absolutely terrified because it tells you things that you don't want to hear. That, my friend, is God telling you something that you don't want to hear. How are we able to hear that conscience? How are we able to sit with ourselves and move through life that way? What this text is saying is that there needed to be a better sacrifice, not one of animals, but one of God himself. So this moves to the last text, which is the Lord's Supper. This is a very famous picture. You can sort of picture that literal picture of the Lord's Supper, of the 12 disciples and Jesus right in the middle. What is this? This is Christ himself sacrificed once and for all, given himself to us in order for us to sit with our conscience and be cleansed by these thoughts so that we can hear them and move through objective reality that the Lord has given us, okay? This is where the theology of the body comes in, okay? What is this? Yes, we can picture Christ on the cross and that sacrifice, appeasing God, if you will, on the cross. But that eternal sacrifice that this text says cleanses our conscience from dead works, that is the thing that we need. Moreover, Jesus is the person that we need. I'll take it a step further, as this text does, okay? This is the upper room. This is the Lord's Supper. As we fast forward 2,000 years now, this is, for religious people, the Eucharist, okay? The Lord's table, communion. Now, if you are not religious, lean in, because there's something mystical that happens in the Eucharist. If you are Protestant or evangelical, lean in, because there's a deeper thing that Jesus wants you to see. If you are Catholic or Orthodox or something like this, lean in, because you've forgotten the whole source and summit of the Christian life, okay? What is it? That move on the cross that Jesus made to sacrifice himself wasn't just a bloody sacrifice to appease some wrathful father figure, in the sky. No. That was the ultimate sacrifice so that you and I can sit with our conscience and not be guilty. We can be cleansed from our dead works that sit inside of our minds, our thoughts, the evil that we live in, okay? We can be cleansed from that. That's not just some distant memory. In the last reading here, that is the upper room. That is the meal. And when Jesus takes the bread and says, "Take, eat, this is my body given for you," Calvary, which is the cross, is represented there. And Jesus' literal body, blood, soul, and divinity is consecrated there. And he gives it to his disciples. He gives it to you and I, and he says, "Take and eat." As we partake in this very physical, very external, very material remembrance, we take and eat, and literally our souls and conscience, they're cleansed of our dead works. Okay? I'm going to give you a little action item here, okay? I want you to experience this power. I want you to square up with your conscience. Stop living in the material world. Stop suppressing. Stop pretending. Enter into something deep here. If you are not religious, if you're spiritual, if you're secular, whatever it may be, I have a test for you. Go into a church, and if they have the Eucharist, which is the consecrated host, that bread turned into the body of Jesus, if they have an adoration or a holy hour where they present the consecrated host in that monstrance sitting there, you'll see a few people sitting and praying. You won't really know what's going on. The central claim of the church says that is Jesus. Body, blood, soul, and divinity. I dare you. Go into that church, and if that little red flickering light in the candle is next to that host, is there. It says, okay, he's really here. He's actually here. You sit down in the front row and you stare at him and you go, okay, I know that you claim to be there, but I don't believe that. show me my conscience, draw me. And you sit there for 1 hour. That 1 hour will rock your world because the God of the universe will be staring at you and your conscience will be revealed. Whether it takes 59 minutes, 15 minutes, or 5 minutes, you'll eventually get there. All of the monkey brain, the worries, the skepticism will melt away, and you will start to see your conscience, and something will happen. You'll be scared to death, or you'll be comforted. Only one of those two things. You will not walk away with some sort of, that was kind of a whatever experience. It'll rock your world. For Protestants, you can stare there and say, Lord, you are my Lord. And if that's really you, then draw me. If not, then get me the hell out of here. You can pray that. And if you're a Catholic or an Orthodox, I forget what the Pew study is. Only like 30% of people believe what I'm saying to be true, which is what the church's teaching is. I would re-engage with your Eucharistic sacramental life. I would lean in, and when you consume him, you bring everything to him. You bring your conscience, your guilt, anything. And what's beautiful about this is that is not just some distant memory of something that happened 2,000 years ago. He did that 2,000 years ago so that he could be represented in that consecrated host. So that when you eat, you, as our text says, you're cleansed. Your conscience is cleansed from your dead works. You don't need to worry about moving through life on the environment or subjective reality or your first principles or even objective moral good. You can sit with your conscience and not feel guilty. You can sit with your conscience and go, yep, this is the voice of God. You'll be cleansed from that, and you won't feel like you'll need to sacrifice yourself over and over and over again, or sacrifice your friends, your family, all of your decisions. Christ is the once-for-all sacrifice. He did it 2,000 years ago so that he can be represented, that the ultimate marriage supper of the Lamb, which is in heaven, and Calvary can be represented. It's a time machine, and it's given to you, and he's given to you, and you take and eat, and your conscience is completely cleansed. You need not have any fear. You need not sacrifice anymore. You don't need to make any sacrifices. He is the true, greater, ultimate sacrifice. Now I dare you to engage with one of these things, okay? Whether you're secular, Protestant, Catholic, Orthodox, whatever, I dare you. Take me up on this, and your world will be rocked. I'll see you in the next one.